Hey guys, it's Charlie and Will again. We're back to talk about a few of the pressing issues in the real estate market, one of which being the NAR, National Association of Realtors lawsuit that was just ruled on behalf of home sellers that the NAR and a few other brokerages conspired to inflate realtors' commissions, meaning the 3% commission on the buyer side, 3% on the seller side. So we're just going to talk a little bit about that, but we're also going to get into the importance of having representation on both sides, and then we'll talk about some other things, the Fed meeting and those notes. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the ruling came out, $1.8 billion, in reward to the home sellers because they were conspired against to inflate commissions for paying 6% commissions. So
Yeah.
what does that
Yeah.
mean, Charlie?
Well, I don't think it means a whole lot at the exact moment. It's the National Association of Realtors has appealed, or they are appealing the verdict, and it's definitely a long way off from actually being resolved, because it could swing back the other way, and then it could end up at the Supreme Court, and there's bound to be other lawsuits in other states that maybe get filed in similar fashion. But I think that the main the main thing that's kind of is interesting is it's kind of making us take a look at how important the really both sides of the transaction really are. And I think
Mhm.
that's the main thing for us to talk about right now, because we don't have like a we don't know if it's actually going to go be upheld or not. And we don't even know if it's going to be that much. It could be more, it could be less, depends on how many plaintiffs actually sign on to this, class action lawsuit. So,
Yeah.
but and I think it further my first initial take is it further emphasizes how important a strong realtor really is in this market as well. And because the realtors that would get their caught with their pants down in a situation like this are the ones that don't fully explain why the commission structure is set up this way, and why it's actually maybe beneficial, right? For me as the seller to compensate the buyer's agent. But I think that we could take like a real quick. I think the first let's take a quick dive, like initial thoughts on what could happen either way, right? Like,
Yeah. Okay.
let's just say hypothetically that it goes through and it drastically changes how the realtor commissions are structured moving forward. Let's just say that this is the final decision, right?
Yeah.
And the sellers aren't required anymore to nice. Are we vying for a sponsorship?
I'm trying to get a
Trying to
Celsius
get a
sponsorship
sponsorship?
here. I'd love to have a Celsius truck pull up and
There you
drop off
go.
a pallet. So
Nice, nice. We'll see. Okay,
yeah.
we'll be consistent with that, right?
Yeah.
But let's just say hypothetically that it okay, sellers are not required anymore, right? And maybe buyers have to if they have other creative ways, right? So
Yeah.
what is your like initial thought on what would happen in that kind of a situation?
I mean, if a buyer has to cover, you talking about if the buyer has to cover the commission for their agent, if they even have
Right,
an agent.
right.
Okay. So
If they even have a say,
so
or if it's optional for the seller, right?
if it's optional, you could look at buyers who decide that they don't need a realtor, they don't want a realtor because they don't want to pay that extra fee,
Mhm.
whatever it may be, whether it's a set fee or it's still a percentage that the realtor is going to charge. you know you're going to run into, I think, a lot of buyers who try to do it on their own. They're going to end up leaning on the listing agent for some
Right,
information, but now you're going into kind of a conflict of interest almost, where
right.
you've got one representative for two different sides of a transaction. And one thing that I think, we were talking about this the other day, it's in a situation like this, it's not going to take long for buyers to get into houses that they realize that they shouldn't have bought because they didn't have a representative there for them to help them with certain situations of a house that's not, uh, maybe it's got a bad roof or certain
Right.
situations that maybe savvy buyers, would
Right.
notice and look out for. But I remember when
Right.
I was buying my first home, I was just walking around looking at the big picture. I wasn't looking at the specifics that need to be considered. And
Right.
so
Right.
my agent did that for me, and she
Right.
was she was very helpful.
Right.
And we looked at 10 or 12 homes, and if I didn't have her there, I guarantee I wouldn't have seen a ton of stuff, and I probably would have pulled the trigger on a home that I shouldn't have.
Right.
So,
Right.
it
And
could.
you only looked at 10 or 12 homes.
Yeah, exactly, which probably isn't
Because
that many.
we have heard of clients, our buyers agents showing 30, 40, 50 homes to potential buyers before they finally settled on one and or got a contract.
Yeah.
So that's another thing is are the sellers agents going to open up the homes every single time? Like
Yeah.
every
Is that
time?
is that oh my gosh, that just I didn't even think about that. Like,
Like
it seems so
if I'm a
obvious, I
sellers
didn't even
agent, I'm
think
not
about it.
doing that. Like,
Yeah.
right? Or I pay somebody, a little trainee that's their job is
Mhm.
okay, there's 12 showings on the books today for this house, first weekend it's open, and you have to
Yeah,
be
you're
there.
probably gonna have to have every single showing scheduled, like, specifically, a timetable instead
Right.
of, a buyer's agent being able to
Well,
open
because
it
that's
up
the thing
for them.
too. That's the thing too is like as a seller, like let's say hypothetically, I don't have to pay the buyer's agent anymore, right? If I'm the seller, do I want random people walking into my house who are not
Without
represented, that are not responsible to anyone, right?
Oh, I mean, that you're right. That's another thing that I didn't even
How
think
much of a
about. That opens
liability is
Yeah.
taken off of the sellers now because buyers agents who are licensed to have access to the home, who when they punch in their little code to get into the house, there's a record of I, Joe Smith,
Timestamp
realtor, have
with an
brought my
ID.
clients here. So if something bad happens in this time frame, I'm on the hook, right?
Yep.
So that responsibility now maybe goes away, right? If I'm a seller, I don't want it's worth it to not have that liability on myself, potentially stuff being stolen or damaged.
Exactly.
And the seller's agent does not that I'm sure the seller's agent doesn't want that responsibility either,
Mhm.
right? Oh man, these are just two things we just thought of just right now.
Yeah, I mean, that you're right. That opens up a whole 'nother
The
just
liability issue is humongous.
liability and just hassles of, you know, the house getting, you know, mud tracked in and people don't care, and
Right.
leaving all the lights on, and,
Which which
turning the
agents
heat
do all the time
on, turning
anyway.
the AC on, running up AC bill, electric bill. Oh,
Right.
man.
Yeah, what if they did that? What if they just to be little jerks, came in, it's the middle of the summer in Texas and put the AC down all the way down, and then the AC unit just goes out because
Yep.
it's working its tail off and you don't notice it, right?
Yeah.
But, like, I just so then the next part of it that I was thinking about was one of the one of the agents or the lawyers said, "This is great because this will allow for more competition, yada, yada, yada." They said, "Now this will bring down the cost of the homes." And I was talking to an agent friend of mine a few days ago, and this he brought it up actually. He brought this situation up. And I go, "Okay, dude. So you do a lot of listings. Do you care what the costs of when you're trying to decide on what this house should be listed for and what it's worth? Do you care if it's a 3% seller pay commission or a 6% seller pay commission, right? Do you care?" He's like, "No, I don't care. Like, if the house is worth 400 grand, I'm listing it for 400 grand, whether I'm paying, whether the seller's paying 3% just to the seller, or if they're doing a 6% split between both, the house is still worth 400 grand.
Correct.
The house is still worth 400 grand, whether you have seller paid closing costs or the buyer pays the closing costs.
Yeah, because
That's what if the house is worth, and that's what I'm listing it for.
yeah, because the buyer
So,
determines that.
and so I think that's another thing that they're not thinking about is that they think it's going to bring down the cost of the home, when in reality, the cost of the home is going to stay where it is because that's what the market will bear for that
Exactly.
home.
Yeah.
Now, how much, again, going back to the hypothetical, the worst case scenario, buyers are not represented anymore.
Hmm.
How much do you think that would reduce the traffic on a listing?
Well, yeah. I mean, you're gonna get some. You're gonna get less traffic. Let's just say that.
Let's qualified actually going to buy the house traffic,
Yeah.
right?
Right. I mean, you're not gonna. Realtors aren't gonna be excited to if you know. Okay, if you're a buyer's agent
Yeah,
and you know that house is not offering any compensation,
yeah,
and you got to get it from your buyer.
right.
That might not be the first house you show them.
Right, right. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you tend to do the tasks that don't compensate you any last, right?
Mm.
Well, also too, what if you're the buyer? What if what if you're the buyer and you have signed a buyer's rep agreement or whatever it is, right? And you agree if the seller does not pay the buyer's commissions, then you will compensate your agent a
Oh
certain
yeah.
amount.
So now that's come. It's more out of your pocket.
Right, right.
I mean, you'd rather finance it.
If you can.
Yeah.
It's
So
not like we have a ton of room in our margins and the mortgage companies, right?
yeah.
But
So
then also,
so
how
then you
much
instead of it, a $400,000 house, if it's listed at 400,000, then you get it. You offer 412 with the seller still giving 3%
ah, so you think
to
that
your.
it's not gonna lower the cost of the homes, it's gonna increase the cost of the homes.
Yeah. I mean that makes sense. If
Huh.
anything, it increases it
Wow.
because as a seller, you're still walking out with the same amount,
Right, right,
and the buyer is paying for it. They're just paying
right,
for it over 30 years.
right. So these lawyers, the only ones who win in the situation, they and a couple of realtors that I've seen comment on this that think it's gonna be great because they have some beef with the National Association of Realtors, that it's actually gonna be the opposite effect. It could potentially artificially increase the prices of homes, or it could decrease the price of a home because if I'm a buyer and I have to compensate my realtor if the seller is not, me as the buyer, I'm going to choose homes that the seller is compensating the realtor. I'm not
Yeah.
going to go if this house is compensating my realtor and the house next door is not, then I'm going to go look at the house that the seller
It's
is going to compensate my realtor because then I don't have to pay it out of my pocket.
it should be it's going to be a negotiating tactic, just like
But then,
a roof
but
or.
right, but then if there's more traffic, if the house that has seller could pay or the seller's
Yeah.
paying compensation and the house that's not, there's going to be more traffic on that one. And then maybe the house that's not offering compensation, they have to reduce the price of that home
Hmm.
to entice buyers. And then they roll it back
or
in and it ends up selling for.
or accept a deal that is full price but includes
Right.
the
Right.
3% fee.
Yeah.
The market's going to work itself out to where uh, there's still a large need for both sides of the deal to be represented. I mean,
Right.
both sides have to be represented, and in order to make sure that both sides win, both sides get
Right.
what they need.
Right. Right. I agree. It a lot more will get put on. You're right. The seller's agent. shoot, a lot of stuff will get put on the mortgage guys
Mhm.
because we have to be part of the transaction, and then a lot of those questions and stuff might get deflected to us, which is not our lane,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
And we don't wanna be held responsible for things at a house that we haven't even been to or seen,
Yeah,
or that we're not it's not our
we're
purview.
already
It's
we're
not
already
us.
responsible for enough. So
Yeah. So but okay, now that this leads to, you know, mortgage originators all want to be in touch with the buyer, really
yeah,
before you start looking for the house.
yeah, yeah,
So that would be in this situation, that would absolutely start happening more.
yeah,
I mean, I would imagine that if they're not represented by they're not just gonna go look at houses. People will. They'll still go look
yeah.
at houses without getting, without having a mortgage strategy call or whatever. But
Right, right,
we'll
right.
end up getting in touch with the buyers more frequently before they go look at houses, I would imagine.
Yep, that could be the case. And then yeah, and then it ends up being referrals going from mortgage to realtors,
Yeah.
and then
On
it
'em
ends up working itself kind of backwards a little bit than how it usually works right now. And
correct.
then, but I think at the end of the day, the ones that I think the ones that kind of will that may not even miss a beat are the ones that already do the job the right way anyway.
Yeah.
Um, you know, that are articulating the importance of all these things that we just kind of have spitballed right now.
Yeah.
Just it's important for your buyer to have representation, so nothing comes back on you. They're doing their job the right way. I honestly, dude, I there's not going to be much of a like. I don't think there's going to be a lot of data on it, but my gut is would I really think that if if the if the seller is not willing to pay buyer's agent commission, I really think that that seller is going to number one make less on the sale of the home, unless the home's just freaking amazing and they get
Mhm.
some sort of a cash offer or something, right? Which is
Yeah.
a unicorn. And I really think that the traffic will be so reduced on that home that they they eliminate 80 or 90% of potential buyers.
Yeah. I mean,
I really
I
do.
think you're gonna have a lot of the realtors that are established, big time realtors that can basically determine, or that sellers want to work with. If you're that kind of realtor at the top of the top of the list, you're
Right.
going to do that in your initial meeting with them and
Right,
say,
right.
no, I'm requiring us to compensate the buyer's agent.
And here is why.
Yeah, here's why. And
Yep.
if you don't agree to that, then I'm not going to take this listing.
Right.
Things like that
So
might happen.
so the sellers may end up settling on lesser agents, right?
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
right. If you get what you pay for a lot of times.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's true. And that could be a good way of having the cream rise to the
Rise.
top,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So, um,
If anything,
and
this might, but quite honestly, I don't think this is going to. It's not going to go through.
yeah,
It's not going to. I don't think this is going to be a major change in the industry. The only
yeah,
thing that I could see happening is a slight reduction. So going from
yeah,
a
it could be.
6% total commission to a 5%, 2.5 each side, I could see that happening. I
Yeah,
mean, but I
yeah,
don't think this is going to be a major change.
no, no, and
So
it's just going to further emphasize the need for very good realtor who knows what they're doing, who has their ducks in a row,
on both
uh,
sides.
on both sides, exactly.
Yep.
And yeah, and it could mean there is the ones that are sloppy are end up getting weeded out, right?
Yeah.
And but yeah, I think that it does. It's a good it's a good little like just it's good to think about the in this case, I think it's a good thing to really kind of bring back to the forefront of how valuable having representation on the buyer side truly is, almost as much for the seller as it is for the buyer,
Yeah.
and working with someone who's a professional and believes that they should be compensated for their work,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. Like you said, it's going to be a ways before this is all resolved, if it ever really gets resolved. But
Mhm.
and this is good. This is good for I think it's good for clients too. Like we welcome all questions, and I want clients to ask me tough questions, because then when I give them the answers, that further solidifies their trust,
Yeah.
right? So it could probably would do the same thing, if they fire off questions about this kind of stuff to their realtors, and the realtors have, well thought out, proper explanations on why everything is done. It further cements that relationship,
Yeah. Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
it could all end up being a good thing.
Yeah.
So nice. But yeah, a lot of news lately, a lot of stuff kind of happening. Like, this was all last week. This came out,
Yeah.
and then the Fed had their meetings on the 31st and November 1st, and it kind of it's kind of whatever I expected. They left rates unchanged. So federal funds rate still sitting at, 5.25 to 5.5%. That's kind of their target range. And it says it's been there since, yeah, still been there since July. So um they left everything unchanged. And I think the main things that came out of that was inflation is still, they want to get inflation down to 2%. Like, that's their target,
Hmm.
to encourage, just a strong economy, good job growth, strong dollar, that kind of stuff. And we're still too high. It's still like 3.7 is still the where the inflation rate is. So we're not where we want to be yet. And so they're leaving the rates unchanged. And so that's kind of what, for the most part, the market was expecting.
Yeah. I mean, we did see a little jump. We saw a slight reduction in some rates.
Uh-huh.
So, the market was probably half expecting that and half expecting a little bit of a raise, maybe. And so that was already
Yeah.
built in. So maybe that's why we got a little help on the interest rates
Right.
last week. But yeah, like you said, it's largely expected. So yeah, the Fed rate is 5.25 to 5.5%. So that keeps the interest rates basically where they are. Credit card interest rates are up. Auto loan interest rates are still up,
Right.
and of
Right.
course, mortgage interest rates are still up. So,
Right. And that's
um,
what, yeah. And he did say that, it's the economy, gross domestic product expanded at 4.9%. Of course, a lot of that is government spending. But one thing that does not kind of go into that is that, yeah, there's still a lot of consumer spending, but as you were saying, credit card debt is rising, and is at all-time high.
pretty sure it's all time
It's
high. Yeah,
it's getting up there. So we do have, the economy is still like expanding, but there's a lot of consumer spending, but it's kind of, I don't know, even news.
yeah.
It's not like great news. It's not, we definitely want people to
To
keep,
spend,
yeah,
just spend wisely. But
yes,
so, what does
please.
this mean for buying homes, for mortgage rates?
Um, so I mean, for us, it just means that the rates are still gonna kind of hold steady where they are.
Yeah,
Which further is kind of showing is proof of what we've been saying, you
yeah.
know. Um, I let me see here. So let's take a look at, let me pull up this one. So here is more MBS Live,
Hmm.
our little trusted resource here for mortgage-backed security pricing. So this chart right here is just the last 5 days, right? And what we really saw was, this is the 6.0 conventional coupon. What we really kind of saw was, since the Fed meeting, here's the Fed meetings right here, right? We saw a little spike, and when the rates are going up, right? I'm sorry, when the mortgage-backed security prices are going up, the rates are coming down. So my gut is telling me that this little spike was just the market reacting to what they were expecting to happen, right? But if we go back and look back over 6 months, we can see where we are here. This is where we are right now. It's just the market, I think, correcting back to where we were in the summertime.
Okay.
That's just my take on it because rates have remained unchanged. Okay, we're kind of holding steady. We're gonna see what happens. I think the market was a little bearish on everything, like just prepping for maybe it's going to be worse news than it really is,
Yeah.
right? And so then rates were going up. We're going up. Obviously, this chart mortgage security price is going down again, right? So inverse relationship. So rates are going up, 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 like very steadily through the fall, and then the Fed meets and says, "Hey, everything's unchanged. We're not there yet. Inflation's still high, but not like real high like last year." So that my gut's telling me that the market is kind of correcting back to the summer which is where they want to be anyway, which tells me that rates are going to kind of hold steady right now for a little bit until we get more inflation data over the next coming months, and then kind of seeing where the economy is taking us into the new year, basically. So,
Yeah.
uh,
So likely that rates are staying where they are for the next, 3 to 6 months, most likely,
yeah,
which kind of further emphasizes what we've been saying about, if you're ready and willing to buy, if you want to buy a house and you can, uh, you know, now is the time, or possibly over the next 3 6 months, because once those rates start to come down, once inflation is down, once, the interest rates start to come down, home prices are going to go up. People are going to
right,
enter the market. So
right. Yeah, people are going to get into the market, and that's just the part of it that we've been saying is that, like, honestly, what we're really needing, and like, it's a fight between um, the actual market forces and then all these government entities and the administration and stuff like that not wanting to have a recession, right?
yeah,
And what we really need, honestly, what we really need is a recession. We need the market to kind of come back, the economy to kind of come back down to earth, and actually not really come back down to earth, just realize all the true data, because what they are doing is they're correcting. No one
previous,
sees the corrections when you know, they they just updated the October unemployment rate. When it came out, it was 3.4. I think yesterday or 2 days ago, they updated it to 3.9. So they updated
there's a
the
big
unemployment
difference.
rate up a half a point,
Yeah,
but no one sees that, right? They don't see the actual corrections when they dig into the numbers a little more and they actually see the real numbers, because the political class doesn't want the bad news,
yeah,
you know? But in reality, what we really kind of need is we kind of need a little bit of a recession to pull inflation all the way back down, um, get back to where the real numbers really are. And then actually what would happen then is it would actually help mortgage rates. Mortgage
yeah,
rates would start coming back down.
yeah.
Uh, so
Do you think that with where we are right now, how home prices, I mean, we're, being in Texas, being in Houston and San Antonio,
yeah,
home prices have basically stayed where they were. I mean, they haven't really dipped or gone down over the last 6 months.
no,
They've stayed where they are.
yeah,
And so the high interest rates really didn't affect that. Do you think that means that
ah,
we're still the market is still healthy in that?
so I think that we're, like you said, we're really fortunate to be in Texas, right? So our market is healthy. It's proven to be healthy throughout time. And I think that right now we have buyers who are getting homes for pretty much list price. Some of them are underneath. Some homes are going for more if they're really, really sharp homes. Like,
Mhm.
they're getting, list price or a little over list price if they're really, really nice homes. And especially in certain price points. If like I've noticed homes between like 200 and 275 here in the San Antonio area are that are real in good shape, and they got good homes are going pretty quick.
Yeah.
But a lot of these deals are the sellers paying for closing costs. So that's another thing for our buyers to understand is you're saving money on six, seven, $8,000 or more in closing costs because the sellers are willing to pay those right now.
Yep.
I think that we're in a situation now where as rates do start to come back down, like let's just say, oh, you said so it's kind of a 3 to 6 month before we really think rates might start that trend downwards. This right here, this right here was a correction, not a trend, is what I think.
Yeah.
Just a correction. A trend is going to come later. And then as the trend is happening, what we're going to see is we're going to see more homes coming on market as more buyers are also entering the market. So I think it's going to be in Texas, it's going to be a nice, proper, balanced market, I
Okay.
think.
Yeah. So
Right.
more supply, you know,
There'll be more
to
supply.
counter the more demand. So yeah, it's
I
not going to
believe so.
be a sharp increase in, you know,
I believe
craziness
so.
of 14 offers, over ask, cash price, 3-day
Right.
close, stuff like that. Yeah.
I think it'll be proper offers,
Yeah.
It'll be, "Okay, we do have some buyers." There's also inventory, so maybe they have a few options, but, anytime you have even just a handful of buyers, 2 or 3 that are trying to get one home, again, you're probably not gonna be offering over list and going crazy, but you're probably gonna be making stronger offers like, "Okay, we just want the seller to pay for the title policy and that's it,"
Yeah.
right? Whereas right now, the seller might pay for everything.
Yeah.
So it's going to be it's I don't think it's gonna be a feeding frenzy. I think it's gonna get back to a more balanced market where it's not really heavy favoring the buyer or the seller, right?
Yeah.
And and then maybe it gets crazy if we see an influx of people coming in, or in a couple of years as more and more younger professionals are able to start buying,
Yeah.
right? But I think right now it'll initially be just those people who are holding off on selling their homes. So those homes start coming on market, right? And then those buyers that have been sitting around not realizing they could take advantage and get a good deal right now, right?
Right now.
And
Yeah.
so it'll probably be a fun time, to be in the business in Texas here.
Mhm.
Probably might by the end of next year, and rolling into 2025, it'll probably be a nice
Well,
a
yeah.
nice market to be
So
in.
yeah, next summer and next fall, we're gonna have, this basically what I see happening, what I see that could happen with interest rates is that you've got, presidential, administration that is departing. So maybe they, make a last ditch effort of, hey, look, we're gonna lower rates. Look how great we
Right,
are.
right.
And then you've got an incoming administration who might say, hey, now that we're here, we can lower rates. We're going to be
Right,
friends to everybody. So
right,
there are two chances, at the end of next year for administrations to make those decisions.
right. To make things a little
Um,
rosier.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
So that also further emphasizes by now, if you can, if you want to, if you're willing. And one thing that you do a great job of pointing out is if you are saving, say, $6,000 on closing costs because of the market we're in right now,
Yeah,
you take that $6,000 and divide it by the amount of, extra money you're spending in monthly interest
right,
to see how many months of extra interest you're saving,
right,
with those closing costs. And, typically, I've seen you do the numbers on these, and a lot of times it's 24, 36 months or so
right,
that you're
right,
basically evening out after 36 months. Well, in the next 3 years, we'll likely have a good opportunity to refi and get a much
right,
lower rate.
right. Yeah, and like you said, once rates do start coming down, and then once they do get to the point of where you're ready to refi, like you yeah, you've saved that 6 grand, 7 grand, whatever it is on closing costs. We've we've talked about this many times, right? Your house is now worth, because we are in Texas. Texas real estate, residential real estate in Texas appreciates. So now your house is worth, a good 7, 8, 9, 10% more than what you paid for it. You refi, maybe you get rid of mortgage insurance now because now you have 20% equity in your home.
Yep.
That's another cost saving feature, because you never know too. Like you're saying, once rates do start coming down, but then once we get to the point where you want to refi, it might be 2 years.
Yeah.
You might buy a house this winter, and now we're refinancing you in, December of 2025, right?
Yeah.
Like that could be the actual path. So I think the main thing too, like if you buy a house right now and rates go down in the future, and that whole all these benefits that we're talking about, and then we take care of your refi costs, right? We pay for the title policy and all that stuff. Then you're going to be super happy, right? That you bought this house and you have all this equity, and you you got a low rate. Also, if you buy right now, and what happens if rates don't ever go down? What if this is where we should be for a little bit,
Yeah.
right? What if rates hang in this, conventional loans hang in the upper sixes and low to mid sevens for the next 3 or 4 years? You're going to be really happy also that you bought right now,
Yeah.
right? Or if
Yeah.
rates
Because
go
that
up, you're
yeah,
gonna be
because
really
that
happy you bought right now.
exactly, yeah, or they go up and you're really happy that you bought right now.
Right, right. What all three potential scenarios lead to, you're gonna be really happy you bought right now,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, if it's, and like, like you were saying, this is the time when, those who aren't scared of the market can be greedy, right?
Yeah.
So, but, yeah, these are a lot of fun things to talk about today, right
Oh,
now,
yeah.
right? So a
Yeah.
lot of things going on, and yeah, if y'all have any questions, and we definitely want to answer all of those, because as you can tell, we can talk about it forever. So
Yeah, and, like, it really is a math problem to, to go to look at, your interest payment now as opposed to in, 2 years or a year where you might get a much lower rate. It's
yeah,
it's an equation that comes out to, it makes sense to buy now or it doesn't. So,
yeah,
um
yeah,
you got to consider a whole lot more than just, hey, I've got, if I bought now, I'd have a 7.25% interest rate. There's a lot more to it when you consider closing costs, you know, everything that we can go over to make sure. So,
yeah, yeah. And we need to talk about next week. We need to talk about the homestead exemption
mhm.
passing,
Yep.
and kind of how that plays the next big benefit
Yeah.
for home buyers. So,
It's a
you know,
big increase.
yeah, I kind of want to hold off on paying my tax bill real quick, see if they correct it. So,
So yeah, I think in a lot of counties, it's already included in there.
oh,
So
they already
Montgomery
anticipated
County,
it.
yeah, on the north side of Houston, it's already in there. I mean, last time I looked. So
I feel like mine didn't. Feel like mine's still too high.
yeah, me too. Mine's still way too high. You're right.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think they counted that deduction yet. So yeah, but yeah, a lot of stuff in the news, and yeah, we'll definitely we'll do some research on that and kind of get into that one next week. I think that'd be good.
Yeah.
So
Do you have any examples of client situations that you want to throw out there?
yeah, actually, so we had a closing. Oh, this like is fantastic for this kind of discussion right now. We had client close on Monday. Helped him buy his house like 4 years ago, and he first went to a retail lender that the agent kind of had just suggested. They couldn't get the loan done. They said no. He found me because, we started the shop about a year and a half ago. So he found me and he called me one day, and so we put the loan together. Yep, we can do it. He's keeping his current home, converting it into a rental property. It's a departing residence. They don't have a ton of assets though, right? So what we did was I sent him over to one of my guys at a local bank here. He did a line of credit or he just did a regular loan, second lien on that property, pulled out 40 grand of equity in that property. He still has even more equity after that. So pulled out that 40 grand. They went around, looked for a home. We found a home in their price point that they felt comfortable with, used about 37,000 of that as a down payment on the house that they just bought. So now he has a rental property that he acquired 4 years ago as a primary residence. He's fulfilled that obligation. Departing residence has a signed lease, a renter in there. There's going to be a little bit of cash flow on that. Borrow the money off of that piece of collateral to put down on this piece of collateral. So now he's got two properties that he's moved into for the original down payment of just 3.5% on that original purchase. And that original purchase was like 175,
Wow.
I think.
Dang, it's appreciated a lot.
Yeah. And now it's worth like 215, something like that. So they paid the bill down, right? And so for an original investment of like what, $5,000, I think was what they paid to get into that house. Cause it was, I think the seller paid for some closing costs and stuff. $5,000, $6,000 out of their pocket, and they have acquired two properties.
Yeah.
So really, really cool, really, really cool scenario. And you got to come to a mortgage brokers like us because I got their loan approved by two lenders, whereas the retail guy couldn't even get it done.
Yep.
So,
and that's not even, I mean, how many lenders do we have that we work with?
Yeah, I just got it approved by two of the lenders, right?
Yeah.
Not all of them.
Yeah.
So
the two best options at that time, right?
Right. I'm willing to bet we could have gotten it done by, I bet all of them probably could have done it. So, but yeah, really cool
Yeah,
success
that's
story.
awesome.
Oh yeah, yeah. And the thing is too, it was this client realizing, like, being savvy and realizing that he could take advantage of the current market conditions and acquire another property, and the seller paid all the closing costs.
Oh yeah.
The seller paid for every single dollar of closing costs. So yeah. And so really, really cool success story on a client realizing the power of that a buyer has in this market right now.
Yep.
Realizing the equity and the gains that he had on his current home, and knowing, because he pulled that equity from that house, he pulled 15% equity from this house and put it into this house, right?
Yeah.
So, and then once they pay that loan down a little bit, the mortgage insurance will go away. So really, really neat, really cool. The power of knowing that there's opportunities in this market.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's just playing the long game, acquiring properties. Yeah, that's great. So
yeah. So, but we can rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
A lot of people out there to be doing something like this. So yeah, hopefully we have another story like that. Another client popping up next time. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
cool.
All right, guys.
All right. I think that's all I got.
Yeah. Yeah. A little bit. We covered quite a bit. So yeah. A lot of stuff going on, but yeah, till next time, we're going to come back at y'all, and please don't hesitate.
And we did not plan this.
Oh, well, mine's
Thursday red shirt day.
Yeah. Is yours red? Yours is that orange and blue?
It's like red and blue.
Red and blue? Okay. Yeah. We're not next to each other. Yeah. But yeah, cool. Guys. Till next time, y'all be good, and we'll come back out with some more info next week.
Sounds good.